Let's take a quick look at protocol for entering information into a spreadsheet. I've opened up the file called Popstars from my data drive, and I've got a list of artists here in the music industry. And the way this information's been entered is to simply type the name of the artist into a cell. But if I wanted to work with this information, by entering it in this way, I'm restricting my possibilities. A name is normally made up of two parts, the first name and the last name. And by entering the whole name into a single cell, I can't now sort this information on alphabetical order of their surname. Let's just see what happens if we do a sort on this information. Click on any of the names in the list. As long as you're within the list, Excel can work with this data. And when you perform an action, Excel will look in the adjacent cells to the selected one. So it'll look above, below, and to the left and right of the cell that you've selected. So we've selected a name from our list. Let's switch to the Data tab in the ribbon. And I'm going to perform a simple sort. So I'll come across to the Sort and Filter tools and click on Sort. And you'll notice that when I do, Excel expands the selection to the list of names. It hasn't selected the top cell because it automatically assumes that this is going to be a heading, and we wouldn't want to sort the heading text in with our actual data. In the Sort dialog box, we've got a tick box here that we can uncheck if we wanted to include the heading in our selected data. But in this case we don't, so I'm going to put the tick back into that box, and now it's just the names that are selected by Excel. So the sort criteria at the moment is that it's sorting on the name, and it's picked up this title from the heading at the top of the sheet, and it's going to sort the values in alphabetical order from A to Z, or ascending alphabetical order. So if I click on OK there, the names get sorted in alphabetical order, but by the first names rather than the surnames. If we want to do more and be more flexible with our data, we'll need to split the names into two parts. And I've done that. If we come down to the Correct tab at the bottom, you can see that in this spreadsheet I've entered the names in two parts. So I've got first name and last name. And again, what we'll do is we'll perform a sort on this list, but this time we'll sort in alphabetical order of the artist's last name. So I've selected one of the data items in my list, and it doesn't matter which one you select, as long as your cursor is within the list of data you want to work with. I'll come up to the Sort button and click on that one, and you'll see that Excel expands its selection to include all of the data. And this time we don't have a value in the Sort By option. But if I click the drop-down button, you can see that Excel has recognized the headings of the columns and listed them in this box. So we want to sort on last name. So I'll click on that one, and we're going to sort the values, again in alphabetical ascending order. So now when I say OK, the list of names gets sorted by last name. So by entering your data in this way, you can do more with it, and the list becomes more flexible. Let's just take a look at some numbers. I'm going to switch to the Gaps worksheet, and in this one I've just got a column of numbers. What I want to do here is to add these numbers up. So I'm going to use the Auto Sum. I'll make sure my cursor is in cell B9, and I'm going to switch to the Formulas tab. The Auto Sum feature is up in the Functions Library tool group, and if I simply click on that one, Excel will automatically select the area that it thinks you want to sum. Now, in this case, it's just selected two of the values above it, and that's because Excel has looked at the list of information and come across this blank cell, and it's assumed that this data is separate from this data, and therefore the selection stops just before that blank cell. Now if I press enter, it'll give me the result of 2. But that's not quite what we want. We want Excel to add up all of the numbers. So let's see how we can avoid this from happening. I'm going to delete the formula that I put in there a second ago, and instead of leaving the cell blank, I'm going to place a 0 in there. Excel treats a 0 value a little different than it treats an empty cell. So although the value is still the same, Excel now sees the 0 as a number and will include it in its calculation. So I'm going to click back on cell B9, and this time when I click on the Auto Sum, you'll see that Excel includes the 0 in its calculation. I'll press enter, and the grand total is 6. So try not to leave blank cells in your worksheet, especially in data areas. If it's a 0 value you need, then put a 0 in there. So that's a brief look at some of the things we need to know before we start entering information into our spreadsheets.